Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Appreciate it as always. Hope you're having a fantastic day on Super Bowl Sunday. Not sure when you're seeing this, but that's when I'm recording it. So I have a question for you. I want to start off with a question. At this point, I have to ask, do people make up stats about Caitlin Clark in their sleep? And if so, why? Why are they doing this? Cheryl Swoops, y'all remember Cheryl Swoops? She spread a lot of false claims about Caitlin Clark on the Gilbert Arenas podcast. Now, what was that, last summer? It's middle of the season, I believe, right? Now, a CBS sports announcer on a nationally televised college game with UConn announced that this announcer just repeated some of the same lies. And this is why we have to push back, because if we don't, this stuff just gets repeated over and over again. And the sports fans who are not me, the sports fans who are not you listening, the majority of sports fans, they're just going to absorb it and believe it to be true, because why wouldn't they? It's being repeated over and over and they're not hearing anything else. So let's take a look at some of this nonsense and talk about why it keeps happening. And you can even see from the headline of this article about how they disingenuously frame things, how the sports media, everything is about a narrative. Caitlin Clark fans aghast at broadcasters Paige Becker's comparison in UConn game. Subhead, a CBS sports broadcaster compared Paige Becker's to Caitlin Clark on Sunday, and Clark's fans aren't happy about it. This headline is BS. This is absolute nonsense. This is what they do. Hatelins say insane stuff to tear down Caitlin Clark. Fans respond with the receipts and facts, and then the Hatelins, like this announcer, they play victim, that they're the ones getting attacked, right? It's like saying, they're all saying Paige is generational because they don't like Clark. And when Clark fans say, no, wait a minute, here are the facts. Here's what Paige does. Here's what Caitlin does. Then it's, they're always having to hate on Paige. They're always tearing down Paige. And it's complete BS. I'm sure you all remember the super awesome Cheryl Swoops, right? We love her. We love her on this channel. She's so personable. She's warm. And most importantly, she is a very honest woman who has sold tens of millions of her Nike Air Swoops back in the day. She didn't do that. Just for those of you who think I'm going to say, how can you say that? That's not true. I know. There's a little bit of sarcasm, right? She did not sell tens of millions of Nikes. And again, her time in Gilbert Arenas, just to give a quick review, I won't play it for you. I'm sure you've seen it enough, but she was giving her deep insight and analysis as the super smart basketball person she is as to why Caitlin Clark's college scoring record was illegitimate. If you remember, that is what she was saying. She was trying to discount it, saying that it doesn't really count. Why? Because Caitlin Clark played 5 seasons, according to Cheryl, and she might play 6, because this was before Caitlin announced she was definitely coming out. But no, she actually played only 4. But she was 25 playing against 18-year-olds. Wrong. She was barely 22, turned 22 toward the end of January of her senior year, basically in the middle of her senior college year. She took 40 shots a game, according to Cheryl Swoops. Try 20. I mean, look, if Caitlin was dropping 40 shots a game, her arm would have fallen off by February. Or if it didn't, she would have broken the scoring record by the end of her sophomore year. And these aren't mistakes, because we're seeing them all the time. They're all getting repeated. This goes on time and time again. Blatant attempts to downplay Caitlin's success by flat out lying about it. So I have I'm going to play this, and I will repeat it because it's not that long, and they've got the game going on in case this is hard to hear. But this is during the UConn game against Providence on CBS. This is a nationally televised game, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this announcer has to go after Caitlin Clark. So let's take a listen to this.
What I've always loved about her game is she doesn't force anything. She's not going to go out there and take 40 shots. She isn't that kind of player. And I know we've talked about the Caitlin Clarks, of the day, now Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. They're different kinds of players, and there's just really no comparing them, because Paige Becker's, she's just an all-around versatile player. She's going to get people the ball. She's going to look for her shot like that. And she's going to let the game really come to her. You never see her out there shooting, taking 40 or 50 shots. It's just not her game.
She's already.
Wow. Did y'all get all that? In case you didn't, because I know the game, it wasn't mixed very well. It's tough to hear that. But what I've always loved about her game, says Julianne Vianney-Braun, who I'm not quite sure got her job. You can let me know in the comments below about her qualifications, because I'm not hearing them in this analysis. Out of nowhere, she has to talk about Caitlin Clark. Speaking of Paige Bueckers, what I've always loved about her game is she doesn't force anything. She's not going to go out there and take 40 shots. Does that number sound familiar? She isn't that kind of player. I know we've talked about the Caitlin Clarks of the day, now Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. They're different kinds of players, and there's really no comparing them. By the way, if you catch that tone, she's not saying Paige is not as good as Caitlin. I think she's saying she's better. There's really no comparing them because Paige Bueckers, she's just an all-around versatile player. She's going to get people the ball. She's going to get her shot, but she's going to let the game come to her. You never see her out there shooting, taking 40, 50 shots a game. It's just not her game. There's so much BS in this. It's insane. Insane that this lady is doing this game. First of all, she says there's no comparison, and then she compares them. Sort of. I mean, she doesn't really compare them because all she's doing about Caitlin is lying. To say Caitlin is not a all-around versatile player is absolutely absurd. I won't go into too much detail, but we can talk about the fact that she's a point guard. She can take players off the dribble. She can play the pick and roll. She can hit three-quarter length passes and put it exactly where it needs to be. She can get to the basket and finish, one of the best in the leagues at that. She obviously has almost limitless range as a three-point shooter. She creates her own shot more than anyone else in the WNBA, and yet she can come off the ball, off of a pick, and catch and shoot as well. She pretty much does do everything in the game. 40 shots a game. Again, there's that number. Have we heard that somewhere before? Now we're upgrading a little. It's 40 to 50. In a few years, they'll be talking about how Caitlin was taking 70 shots a game. The 40-shot myth is still alive and well, and this is why we push back. The Paige doesn't force shots narrative, as if Caitlin does, and that's all that she is a selfless shooter. Caitlin, who led the NCAA in assists every single year, but her freshman year, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was second in the nation her freshman year. She more assists every single season, if I have that right, and I think I brought it up. Yeah, here we go. 7.1 as a freshman, then 8 as a sophomore, 8.6 as a junior, 8.9 as a senior. So get this, by the way. Her shot's very consistent her first 3 years, and she upped it a little in year 4. 18.8, 19.8, 18.8, and then it popped up to 22.7 her senior year. Yet, her assist number also went up. Absolutely ridiculous. If passing was a crime, Caitlin Clark would be serving multiple life sentences. So here's the thing. Why does the media feel the need to tear Caitlin down to build Paige up? Because that's what's happening, folks. It's not the other way around. Caitlin Clarks are reacting to all of the nonsense that they're hearing from the sports media. The media should love what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball, but instead, we always get jealousy, resentment, and lies. Lies is what we're getting. Caitlin has brought in record ratings, record attendance, record merchandise sales, but instead of celebrating, they undermine her accomplishments every chance they get. And yet, they don't seem to understand if Caitlin Clark wasn't in the WNBA, half these people wouldn't even have a job talking about the WNBA. And no one listening to this, none of you would know who Monica McNutt was, or Andrea Carter, or Shanae Agwumike, or Agwumike. I always want to say Agwumike. Sorry, Shanae. Elle Duncan. No idea who these people are. None. And it's got to stop. And it doesn't stop if we just constantly let them feed these lies and don't say anything else. Right? We aren't stupid. And now we have social media to push back on these lies. Now we have YouTube to push back on these lies. Paige Beckers is a great player. So if you're listening to this and ready to say, I'm hating on Paige, no. Paige Beckers is a great player, but she's her own player, and she's not Caitlin Clark. That's all there is to it. Caitlin Clark fans aren't comparing her. It's everyone else who's doing it. There's no need to pump up Paige by lying about Caitlin. And it certainly doesn't help Paige. If you have Paige Becker's best interests at heart as a basketball player, you're not doing this. You are using her to tear down Caitlin Clark with no thought as to how it negatively impacts Paige, just like no one has ever had any thought as to how it negatively impacts Juju, who sure looks like she's been feeling that pressure lately. So I get people say, oh, why even talk about it? Why give them air? And there are certain things like just clearly obnoxious trolls. I get it. Again, CBS broadcaster, this is a national game. Lies and fake narratives need to get called out. When they aren't, they are accepted as truth. We got Cheryl Swoops last year, right? Even with all the pushback on that, here we have this lady on CBS saying the same lie. Not pushing back is a big reason we get all this nonsense. And you get most people that believe it because they don't have a reason not to. If you're a typical fan who just tunes into that game and you hear that about Caitlin Clark taking 40, 50 shots a game, and you hear it from Cheryl Swoops, and you're not hearing any of the pushback, you have no reason not to believe that it's being said. But instead of making up stats, maybe sports media should start appreciating that Caitlin Clark is making the WNBA richer than ever before. Caitlin Clark is making the WNBA known. Absolutely wild. Why do you think so many in sports media try to downplay Caitlin Clark's impact? Let me know in the comments. And one thing I will add to that is what is so odd. It's always around the WNBA league, the players, the WNBA-centric sports media, or should I even say women's basketball sports media, because she gets praise everywhere else. She gets praise from the NBA. She gets praise from NFL players when they're asked about her. She gets praised from everywhere. But the WNBA, and just as bad Nike, but that's a whole nother issue and video. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really do appreciate you checking out this video. As always, like, comment below, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I promise it won't hurt, and I will talk to you later.